This is our sixth and I suppose final lesson of our measuring time unit. We will have some review of what we learned in these last six lessons uh, next week. This is not, once again, based on Math Focus 4, just as the previous lesson on elapsed time was. However, knowing 24-hour time is important. So, what is 24-hour time? Well, to start off, maybe I should point out that have you ever heard times like 1400 hours or 2330? If you have, you're not mistaken or anything. That is a way of telling time. However, it's not commonly used in our everyday lives. There are different times it's used, and I'll explain in a minute. So here's how I'm going to explain 24-hour time. So as you are aware, there are 24 hours in each day. Now, to avoid any confusion between AM and PM, many countries and government agencies have adopted a 24-hour clock. Most commonly, you hear about 24-hour time in the Army. They'll talk about 1400 hours or 0600 hours and things like that. Also, hospitals have used it, airports use it. You'll see a time up there, it's often a 24-hour time. And the most common place I've seen it used is in countries. So in Europe, like the United Kingdom, most of their clocks are in 24-hour time, not 12-hour time, AM and PM. Now, let's take a look at a 24-hour time clock. Most clocks have 12 numbers on it. The 12 numbers separate AM from PM. So at 12 midnight, the day begins. And then after 12 hours, it is noon and becomes afternoon. So basically, in a 24-hour day, the hour hand goes around the clock twice. 12 hours for AM in the morning, 12 hours for PM in the evening or afternoon or evening. Okay? However, with 24-hour time, it's a little bit different. First of all, for 24-hour time, you need to disregard AM and PM. They are not relevant, they do not matter to this at this point. Because instead of having only 12 numbers on the clock, you actually have 24. And what I mean by that is this. In the morning, the time is still the same. So when midnight hits, it's actually not 12 a.m. It's called the 0 hour. So it's the first hour of the day, so no hours have passed. So, for example, at 12:05 a.m., it's actually 00:05, no a.m. or p.m. So 5 minutes into the day. By the time the clock has gone around a full during the 0 hour, by 1 a.m. it is 100 hours. As the day goes on, the time for 24-hour time during the first half of the day is pretty much the same. Once 1 o'clock hits in the afternoon, though, this is where it changes. It becomes 1300 hours. And as you can see on this, there's a 13 on our clock. So it becomes 1300 hours, 1400 hours, 1500 hours, 1600 hours, 1700 hours, 1800 hours, 1900 hours, 2000 hours, 21, 22, 23, and it goes back to 24. Now, there's no 2400 hours. What happens is at 23:59, it goes back to 0 hours. It's like resetting a stopwatch. So let's take a look at this pattern though. You will notice that there's a couple patterns here. The outside number plus 12 equals the inside number. So for example, 12 plus 1 is 13. 12 plus 2 is 14. 12 plus 3 is 15. 12 plus 4 is 16. So if you're uncertain about in the afternoon what time like 3 o'clock in the afternoon is, just ask yourself, well, what's 12 plus 3? 12 plus 3 is 15. It has to be 1500 hours. Plus, the inside number minus 12 equals the outside number. So, for example, 13 take away 12 is 1. 14 take away 12 is 2, and so on. Now, Let me remind you that 00 represents midnight on the 12 or 24-hour clock. It is read as 0 hour. Midnight to 12:59 p.m. on the 24-hour clock is the same, but from 1 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. it goes to a 24-hour clock. That's where you get 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So let's take a look at these to try and wrap our head around the 24-hour clock. So the first one's pretty straightforward. It's actually really easy because the time is a time you commonly see. If you see a time that you can see on a regular 12-hour clock, you know that it's already AM. It's already in the morning. So 2:58 in the morning would be, the big hand would be almost between the 2 and 3, almost at the 3, and 58 would just be 2 minutes before, the minute hand would be just 2 minutes before it hits the 12. So I don't really need to go into great detail about that one. 12:48, same thing. This is a time you see on a 24-hour clock, so we know that this is actually 12:48 in the afternoon. Remember that it's not 12:48 at midnight, because if it was 12:48 at midnight, these was 1 and 2 would be both zeros. It would be during the 0 hour. We would only be 8 minutes into the day. We're actually 12 hours and 48 minutes into the day, which means our big hand would be just before the 10, and our hour hand would be between the 1 and the 12 and the 1, closer to the 1, because it's literally 8 or 12 minutes to 1 o'clock. Let's take a look at this third one though. This is where it gets tricky. Here's a time you wouldn't commonly see on a 12-hour clock, 14:33. So what I need to do is I need to ask myself, well, what time is it? Well, I can point to the 14 here, and I know that 30 would be 3 spots after the 6. But if I'm asked, well, I need to convert 14:33 to a 12-hour time, I know it's in the PM because the time is after 12. It's greater than 12, so it's obviously in the PM. I know it's still 33 minutes, nothing's changed, so it's something 33. Here's what I do. 14 take away 12 is 2. So I know that this time is 2:33. Let's take a look at another one. Now they want us to rewrite these times for the 12-hour clock using AM or PM. The first thing I need to ask you is, here's 23:16. My question here is, how do I turn this into a 12-hour time? Well, first of all, I have to ask myself, is it AM or PM? 23 is greater than 12, so it means this has to be a PM time. My next question would be, well, the minutes don't change, so it's going to be something 16 p.m. So I don't need to do anything with the minutes. The hours, however, are a bit confusing here. Remember, if you take the 24-hour time and subtract 12, you should get the corresponding 12-hour time. So 23 take away 12 is 11. So this is 11:16 p.m. Now let's do the reverse. We're given a 12-hour time, and we're going to put it in 24-hour notation. We'll do the first two. 2:30 a.m. Believe it or not, you don't have to change anything with this. You drop the AM and you simply put a 0 in front of the 2. 2:30 a.m. is 230 or 2:30 in the morning is 2:30 on a 24-hour clock. The only difference is you don't have the AM at the end, and you have a 0 in front of the 2 here. 2:30 p.m. is a little bit different though. Remember, when we're talking PM, it means it's after 12. So that means that we have to change the hour here. We drop the PM, we keep the 30 minutes, and then we're going to add 12 to 2. 12 plus 2 is 14, so our notation here be 14:30. No AM, no PM, 14:30. Let's try one more. 7:15 p.m. Again, we're going to have to convert this hour to a bigger time because it's 24 hours, and in the PM it means that we're past the 12. So drop the PM, keep the 15 minutes, and add 12 to 7. So that's 1915, because 12 plus 7 is 19. I hope this is clear, and if you have any questions or concerns, you may contact me on Microsoft Teams or email me. Thanks again. Take care.